Hi, I'm Eva Murphy from Electronic Engineering at IT Sligo, and this is my Leaving Cert Maths Grinds channel. I'll regularly add new videos for both higher and ordinary level maths, so make sure you subscribe below and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos. Right, some more questions on functions and calculus. So 2017 question 8. So one of the long questions. 7, 8 and 9 are always the long questions. So a company makes and sells fibre optic cable. It can sell at most 200 kilometres of cable in a week. So that's e-fibre, that's fast Wi-Fi. For a certain range of its production, the company has found the profit can be modelled using the function p of x equals 275x minus x squared minus 2000. In the function, always underline what they mean. X is the number of kilometers of cable. P of x is the profit. Use the profit function P of x to find how much money the company loses if it does not sell any cable. So sells no cable. Therefore, x is equal to 0 because x was the number of kilometers of fiber optic cables sold. Okay. But even from that, let me show you another way where you can make an educated guess as to what you're able to do. Okay. So it tells you to use the P of X function. Now, if you look in here, the only letter in here is X. Okay. So go back then and have a little look. So what was X in the question? And it might just help you out. Okay, so X is 0 if they sell no cable. So sub in your 0 for X. Anything by 0 is 0, so they're going to disappear. So P of X is equal to minus 2000. Okay, and that's how I know it's a loss. Not that you have to know that, but it's the minus number. So the company is losing money if they sell no cable. And that would make sense because they probably have people employed, so they still have wages to pay and electricity to pay and so on and so forth. So even if they make no cable, they'll still have expenses. So that's part A. Part B. In a particular week, the company made a profit of 8350. Okay, so remember we underlined what was profit. So we've only two things in this. We have length of cable and profit. So if they give us a profit now, we know that P of X is equal to 8350. So in a particular week, the company made a profit of 8350, okay? But P of X, our equation, is also equal to 275x minus x squared minus 2000, wasn't it? Okay, so in this particular week, that's equal to 8350. Okay, I see a quadratic, I see x squareds, I see x's, and I see numbers. So I'm going to bring him over here and form my quadratic. 275 minus x squared minus 2000 minus 8350 is equal to 0. Okay, so remember a quadratic, ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. So I'm going to put my x squareds first. That minus belongs to the x squared, so you have to bring it with you. Then my x's, which is 275. And then my number. So my calculator, minus 2000 minus 8350 is minus 10,350 equals 0. Okay, so it doesn't look a bit nice, but don't worry about it. Let's do the minus b formula. So a is the number in front of x squared, so that's minus 1. B is the number in front of x, and c is the number on its own. X is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In the log tables on page 20 at the top. Okay, there's also the ax squared plus bx plus c. So let's sub in minus b, so minus 275 plus or minus the square root of 275 squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so I have minus 275 plus or minus, so I'm just going to put that square root bit, including the square root sign, into a calculator. So square root of 275 squared minus 4 bracket 1 bracket minus 10,350. And I am getting a decimal point for that. Which I didn't expect. Say that again, you're really low.
Is it supposed to be minus 1?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is indeed supposed to be a minus 1, which changes him for AC all over 2A. Thank you. It's exactly what's wrong. And now I get a 185. Cool. And the reason I didn't like the square root sign or the decimal point in that one, not that you can't get a decimal point, but it's just, I'd find it surprising that they'd sell point something meters of cable. I would imagine they'll sell it in whole numbers. Okay, so of course that's over now 2 times minus 1, so over minus 2. Okay, so let's split it. So minus 275 plus 185 over minus 2 will be one answer, and my next answer will be minus 275 minus 185 over minus 2. So I've split that plus and minus. There's the plus option and there's the minus option. Out from that it's the same. So hit the fraction button, minus 275 plus 185 all over minus 2, and I'm getting x is equal to 45 for that one. And for this one, I'm just going to go back to hit minus 185. And I've got x being equal to 230 for this one. Okay, so again, I'm pausing because I have two answers, and always think about whether the two answers make sense or only one makes sense. So in a particular week, the company made a profit of 8,350. Find the number of kilometers of cable it sold that week. Well, now it doesn't make sense that they have two different values for cable that they sold. So one of them doesn't make sense, okay? And in many questions, you get one a plus and one a minus. And if you think about it, the minus one doesn't make sense. These are two plus ones. So let me go back and read the question again. So a company makes and sells fiber optic cable. It can sell at most 200 kilometers of cable in a week. Okay, so let's discard this one because it's greater than 200 kilometers. Okay, so my answer is x is equal to 45 kilometers. Okay, not the end of the world if you didn't discard the 230, you'd lose maybe 1 mark, but you definitely get the majority of the marks. So that was B. C then, the table below shows some of the data representing the profit on sales. Use the profit function P of X to complete the table. So let me again write down that P of X function. It was 275X minus X squared minus 2000, wasn't it? Okay, so I have two ways I can do this. Okay, on the top is my x values, which is 50. So when x is equal to 50, okay, and I can also write that as P of 50. You don't have to be able to do that. That's just maths lingo. But basically, you're subbing in 50 as such, and you're working it out. You're then doing when P of 60. So it's 275 by 60 by 60 squared minus 2000 equals, okay? You don't have to do 70. but I often do 70 to make sure that I've got the right method. Okay, that's what I always use that for. So the very first one I would have done up here is the 70 to make sure that if I sub 70 in there, I'm going to get 12,350. Okay, and I just do it on the calculator. I don't normally write it down, but it's a great way to figure out that you have the right method. And then do 80, then do 90, then do 100, okay? Or, of course, you can use functions on your calculator. Okay, so let me tell you the settings for that, and why don't you do it with me? So mode setup, I'm going into, mode setup. I'm going into option 3 for table, and I'm putting in my function. So 275 red x minus red x squared minus 2000. Okay, and hit equals. So put in your function, your start, then you're starting at 50. So put in 50 and equals. You're stopping at 100. And you're going up in steps of 10. Do you see you're going up 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 to 90 to 100. So steps of 10. Of course, hit equals after each of these because that logs it into the memory. Okay, so again, I'm going down to 70 to see, do I get 12,350 on my calculator? And I do, so I'm confident. So what I'm getting for this one is for 50, 9250, for 60, 10,900, 12,350 for 70. Hit my down arrow and I'm getting 13,600 for 80, 14,650 for 90, and 15,550 for 100. Okay, so it doesn't matter which way you do it. It's whichever way you see. Okay, whether you do it manually this way or in the calculator, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer. Okay, and then I'm guessing the next bit says to plot it. Okay, so again, this piece here is maths language, or I suppose maths representation for this graph does go the whole way down to 0. I just have no data there, so I didn't bother showing it. And the same here. Okay, so again, all graphs in theory starts at 0, 0, but it's just showing you a proportion of the graph here because they've no data down there. Okay, so let's see what our point was at 50. So what was our couples? So 50 and 9250. So 50, 9250. Okay, so that's 9,000, 10,000. So in the middle is 9,500. I can't remember what I got now. I've forgotten already. 9250. So 250 then is halfway between 9,000 and 9,500. So it's roughly there. So for 60, I have 10,900. So 10,900, so that's 10,500. So 900 is up nearly at 11. So somewhere up there. At 70, it was 12,350. So that's 12,500. So 12,350 is before that. So somewhere there. At 80, it was 13,600. That's 13,500. So 600 is a bit above that. So there. 90 is 14,650. So that's 14,500. So 650. And 100, 15,550. It's just a bit above that one. Okay, and is it a straight line? Kind of hard for me to see now on this. Easier if I could do a ruler on it. Did you get a straight line when you drew it, guys, or is it a curve? No, it's a quadratic, so it's going to be a curve, okay? Do you see that? It's got x squared x and numbers, so this isn't a square, a straight line. It's a curve. So let me draw that. So it's part of the curve, and this is the p of x function. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So just to give you an indication for some marks in case anybody was worried if you couldn't finish it. So the part A here was 5 marks. Part 10, the quadratic, was 10 marks, part B. Part C, the table and the graph were also 10 marks. Okay, so well worth being able to do the table and the graph. Oh, sorry, the table was 10 marks and the graph was 5. So 15 for the table and the graph. Part 3 then, use your graph to estimate the lower and upper range of sales in kilometres of cable in order to make a profit between 10,000 and 14,000 in a particular week. So between 10 and 14 in a particular week, use your graph. Okay, so between 10 and 14. So the way I do it is coming in from this side is money. So if they give me a money and they ask me something about the graph, I'm going to read the graph from this side. If they give me a number of kilometres of cable and they ask me to find out something about it, I approach the graph from this side. Okay, now, so let me use this example to explain what I mean. So they're saying use the graph to estimate how much cable is sold to make a profit between 10 and 14. So 10 and 14 is money. So I'm going to approach the graph from this side. Okay, so 10. So you come across at 10. Okay, and you come down. Okay, so that's what I mean by you come in the graph from the money side. So what was the other fellow? So a profit between 10 and 14. So let's find 14 on our graph. So let's come in from that one. And it's these construction marks, these marks that I've made on the graph in green that you get marks for, okay? Because it shows that you understand how to read a graph. Okay, now you don't particularly need the arrows. I'm just showing you, I suppose, how I'm reading it. Okay, so how much kilometres of cable need to be sold so that I have a profit of between 10 and 14? Well, that looks like 55. And he looks like he'd be about 85, so something like 83, something like that. So 55 to 83. So lower, 55 kilometres. And upper, what did we say it was? 83 or something like that. Kilometres of cable. Use your graph to estimate the lower and upper ranges in sales in order to be able to make a profit. Show your work on the graph above. So that's what the marks are for. Because you can see there's no computation, there's no adding, subtracting, there's none of that in these type of questions. So the marks are going for, can you read a graph? Okay, so there was 5 marks for being able to read off those two values. Okay, now if they'd asked me a question such as, what profit is made if I sell 95 kilometres of cable? Okay, so let me write that down. So if they says, what profit for 95 kilometres of cable? Okay, just explain what I mean by coming in from the cable side. So this is a length of cable. So now I'm coming in from this axis or this direction. So I find 95 on this, which is here. And again, I would come up here at 95 until you touch the graph, and then you go right across And you can see if you sold 95 kilometers of cable, you're going to make something like 15,250 euros. Okay, so if they give you, so look at what's on the two axes, see what they gave you, and whichever axis that matches, approach your curve from that direction. Okay, and then you're going across to the other one. Use calculus to find the number of kilometers sold when the profit is increasing at a rate of 105 kilometers per hour. Okay, so profit, anytime they ask for profit, we know we're working off the P of X formula, okay, which is 275x minus x squared minus 2000. Okay, so use calculus, which means we have to differentiate it. So remember, calculus is the rate of change. So when something is increasing or decreasing, that's changing and it's a rate of change. So we can write it as dy dx equals, or we can write it as p dash of x equals. So remember what our rule was. When we have x to the power of n, we take the n down in front so that you get n times x, and we reduce the power by 1. So take 1 off the power. So that's the rule we use all the time. So our x values go down every time. So in other words, if it's x to the power of 3, I take the 3 down in front and I reduce this by 1. So can you see x cubed is going to x squared? If I differentiate x squared, take the 2 down in front, reduce the power by 1. So x squared goes to x. If you differentiate x, then that power is 1. So take it down in front. This is x to the power of 1. So if you reduce it by 1, you get x to the power of 0, which is in fact 1. Okay, so x cubed goes to x squared goes to x itself goes to 1. Okay, so that's kind of a handy way to remember it. And a constant, we'll say 53, but it can be any number at all. When you have to differentiate that, you get 0. Okay, so that's the bulk of how to differentiate. So when we differentiate 275x, we get 275. I never said how to do a constant, okay? If I have 5x squared, okay, leave the 5 there, take the 2 down in front, reduce the power by 1. So it'll end up being 10x. So when you take that 2 down there in front, you'll end up with 2 times 5, which is 10. Okay, so 275x then. So how do we differentiate x? Well, the power is 1. Take the 1 down in front and x to the power of 0. Minus, how do we differentiate x squared? Take the 2 down in front, reduce the power by 1. How do we differentiate a constant? It goes to 0. Okay, let me rub out all of this now. And then you just tidy it up and you're done. So you end up with p dash x being equal to, always remember x to the power of 0 is 1, okay? It can be very easy to confuse that and put down 0, but it's 1. So you end up with 275 by 1, which is 275, minus 2x to the power of 1 is just minus 2x, and 0 is 0. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. That's it differentiated. All I've done is to find out the rate, a formula to find out the rate of change. Okay, I haven't used this 105 bit again, yet, but I'm going to use that in a minute. But I hope this makes sense. So this is a formula for slope. Okay, it has to be a formula because it's a curve, and think about a quadratic. The slope actually changes as you move along the curve. There's no one value for slope that could describe that entire curve. That's completely different to a line that you have already got the slope of using coordinate geometry, using the slope formula. You can get a single value of slope for that using this formula because it's a straight line and the slope stays the same. But that's why a curve is different. You can't get a single value. You can only get a formula for slope or rate of change. Slope is rate of change. So it's saying how many kilometers of cable is sold when the profit is increasing at a rate of 105. So therefore, it's telling me this rate of change of profit is 105. So therefore, I'm letting what I differentiated equal to this rate of change. And what I'm going to do now is solve it for x. Okay, so minus 275 from both sides, or bring that 275 over and it becomes minus, whichever way you want to do it. Either way, you end up getting 105 minus 275. So minus 2x is equal to, let me just do that in my calculator, 105 minus 275 is minus 170. And divide by the number in front of x. So divide that by minus 2. And it's 85 kilometers of cable that is sold when the profit is increasing at a rate of 105 per kilometer. Okay, and again, 10 marks for that particular question. To just get the differentiation part, this part was 6 out of 10 marks. Okay, so super important to be able to differentiate.
If you are interested in technology or engineering, but are not doing higher level maths, why not consider our Level 7 in Electronic and Computer Engineering? This is a 3-year programme that looks at the design and development of embedded electronic systems. These are the medical devices that keeps us healthy, the consumer devices that keeps us entertained, or the controlled systems that keeps us safe on the road. You can then progress on to the Level 8 in Electronics and Self-Driving Technologies, and from there to the Masters.
Check out the link below for more information.